Hello everyone, chugging along again with our NHL season preview series. Today we're going to be talking about the Columbus Blue Jackets, another Metro team. And before we start, I'd like to say please make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you like hockey, stay around for the end of the video if you're unsure. But in general, I'd want to do this as a full-time career, and would love to have you help me do that along the way, and really would appreciate your support. Anyway, let's talk about the Jackets. Columbus had a better than expected season, to say the least, in my eyes, as I had them finishing 8th within the division. Clearly that didn't happen, as they were able to post a 37-38-7 record for 81 points, while still unfortunately missing the playoffs. But with an offseason that saw plenty of big changes to the roster, what will the fifth line be able to expect for this team, and could they possibly expect playoff appearance? I'm going to talk about all that with storylines, stuff to follow like that, and then of course my expectations for them, what I think they should expect. So what are some storylines to follow? The first one will be about Johnny Gaudreau in his first year in Ohio. As we all know, Johnny Gaudreau left Calgary for the Blue Jackets. I mean, who would have expected? But yeah, Gaudreau left the Calgary Flames to be closer to home, and he ended up signing a long-term deal with the Blue Jackets after posting a career-high 115 points this past regular season. His play will likely decide if this team could make a playoff push because of the top line. Luckily for the fans, he'll have a great chance to shine with fellow big-name player Patrick Laine. No, we haven't got to see them play together just yet. People are salivating at the thought of these two playing out wide in transition. The great thing for himself in Laine is the fact that Gaudreau helped set up his teammates as well, and I think Laine kind of struggled with that a bit, especially in Torts' system, where it was very defensive-minded. You didn't have guys that were big-time playmakers to a certain degree, and he struggled in that regard. Obviously had a better year last year, but could miss that or possibly do better with Gaudreau. What does this mean exactly? Well, it means that Laine, along with Gaudreau, could have a big year, and Laine could have a resurgence, as he could rack up goals, while Johnny could rack up assists, especially on the power play, where Columbus struggled a bit. Now, there is no guarantee this thing goes perfectly, especially since Laine struggled with playmaker Jakub Voracek last season and left something to be desired at 5-on-5 play. But at the same time, I understand Gaudreau is a different player than Jakub Voracek, who of course led the team in points last season. The new number 13 is no rookie when it comes to scoring goals either, though, with 5 seasons of 20-plus goals or more, 3 of those being 30-plus goal seasons. In fact, he is coming off of a career-best 40-goal season. With a thrilling addition of him, I think this could be a very dangerous team offensively, as they finished 14th in expected goals for per 60 in the league. Now, Columbus isn't really known for having these guys that are 40-plus goal scorers in a season, but with the addition of Johnny, him and Laine on the top line could both possibly score 40 goals. I know it seems a little unlikely, but you have to remember both have done it already, and it would be really amazing for the team if they did. But I'm going to stop gushing about Johnny, and I'd like to say that he is 10th. This is the final thing. He is 10th in the league for player points over the past 3 seasons. And yes, people could say, oh, he did it having a crazy good season this year that kind of inflated it. But you also have to remember that he has multiple 70-plus point seasons under his belt, something no other Columbus Blue Jacket can say since Artemi Panarin did it during the 2018-19 stretch with 87. Last year, the team leader, like I said, was Jakub Voracek, 62 points, so it goes to show why everybody is so excited. Voracek had 62, Gaudreau had 115. Not to say that he will this season, but there is reason for hope. The issue, though, the other storyline, or one of the other storylines I should say, is the fact that they allowed a lot of goals. Yes, Johnny Hockey and Patrick Laine could be scoring a lot of goals for this team, but they really did not help their goalies out at all for 5-on-5 play, and all around they were awful in a lot of categories and gave up a lot of shots basically everywhere. They actually allowed the most shots against per 60 at full strength. And I know what you're thinking, how in the world could that be past teams like Arizona and Montreal that struggled a bit as well? Well, they just did, and it happened in a lot of weird ways. You go from the Torts era that was very defensive-minded to having teams be able to outscore them at will at different times, and it was, or I should say at ease, and it doesn't help. They had a lot of players that weren't able to dominate possession of the puck. Top line players like Patrick Laine and Boone Jenner are some of the culprits here, as they typically fall into the top 4 for allowing the most chances and qualifying chances against their own end. They struggled. They are not defensive studs. I have heard the argument that Laine is so much better defensively. If you go and look at some of these stats, you realize he is probably, especially among their forwards, a guy that really struggles to help them out in that end. And you could probably argue for guys like Laine, the only reason his goals for percentage was 50% due to good goaltending at the end of the day, especially at 5-on-5. I would say if Columbus wants to get better, this is going to have to be a collective effort, of course, but other guys like Vladislav Gavrikov are going to have to be the answer here, because this team has not got guys that you would say shutdown guy, Selke candidate for some of these players, and that's the reality of it. And of course, on top of that, goaltending is going to have to get better if they want to allow fewer goals. You look at this past season, especially for Jonas Korpisalo, and wow, this feels like a never-ending slump for him. Last year was really bad, about as bad as it could get, with an .877 save percentage and a 4.15 goals against average in 22 appearances. An average/replacement level goalie would have stopped 19 more goals than him. And clearly, things aren't so sunny for the Finn. Elvis didn't have a big year to envy either, but he dealt with the same team as well and was able to put up better stats, so you're probably looking at him and saying undoubtedly the starter, but the duo in general looked to be rough. Now, they were very promising a few seasons ago, and I'd say that Corpy is probably not there anymore. I mean, I don't want to be mean to Korpisalo, but I'd say that if he doesn't do well this year, he probably can't even hold a backup role. And Mersey, I don't really know what his plans are or how we see him as a team in the long term, if he could be the starter. But that is Larson's job to figure out. Am I right? On to the final storyline. This will be following the team and what their young guys can do. I am thrilled about this. I am really excited because they have multiple guys that are previous draft picks that could be coming to fruition, and we get to see it right in front of us. Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, and Kirill Marchenko are multiple guys you think of that could be difference makers for Columbus if they are able to make the postseason, because all these guys have talent, and we've heard about it for a while. We already saw Cole play this season, Johnson playing 9 games and Cole playing 79 last season. Kent's lack of games was something where I can't say, oh, this is how he's going to be, but all around, I would say one big thing he's going to have to improve on was the fact that 61.5% of his unblocked shots ended up missing the net, so you've got to be able to get your shots on net a little bit more, but he is a former 5th overall pick, and Yarmo loved what he saw in him, so until I have a bigger sample size to say otherwise, I am backing him and hoping he will be able to handle this season. As for Cole, he struggled a little bit to adapt to the NHL level in year 1. I know that he was able to score 16 goals, but he kind of just struggled to do a lot. He struggled to get out of his own end. He struggled to get into the oppositional end. It was rough. Now, again, he is 19, so I'm not going to expect the world from him, as he is 3 years younger than I am and still learning the game. But hopefully last season was a learning experience for him and a potential eye-opener. Hey, these guys are really good. I am still a good player, but I have to grow not only physically but mentally in order to adapt and be back on top and to be one of the better players on his roster. As for Marchenko, he is a guy that has been patiently waited on. He's been in the KHL and is going to be a potential offensive machine, as he is said to have a great shot, great hands, good release, looking very good in that regards. He will have to adjust to North American ice this season. However, while he'll probably split some AHL time, I'm thinking he could help accelerate the learning curve by talking to other foreign players. We are at the point now where you have multiple guys that are adjusting to North American ice. Helping the young guy, these veterans, could really help things in general to get that going. So I'm super excited to see how he'll do. I know we've been hearing about him for a very long time. Feels like forever. It's probably been 3 or 4 years. But I would love to see him get a taste of the NHL and it go well. Now, I can't promise everything will be pretty with this group, but I do think these 3 could be very good players for the team in the coming years, and Yarmo has got to be very excited to see what some of his picks are going to be like once they get out on the ice. Having said all this, with Johnny and with the defensive issues and the young guys, what are my expectations for Columbus this season? I have to say that I am going to probably put them in not making the playoffs. I know that's probably not what a lot of people want to hear that are fans of the fifth line or that are part of the fifth line, but looking at this team, they are much more exciting than last year, but guys have to gel. You have the issue where they're not extremely deep down the middle. Boone Jenner is projected to be the top line center. That should not be the case. Boone, I love him, had a very good year back in 2014-15, had that 30-goal season, but if Boone Jenner is your top center, that is concerning. Now he is playing alongside Gaudreau and Laine, so that is great, but if Sillinger struggles as well down the middle where they've got him projected to be, you have Roslovic that would probably be the first line center if he got moved up. Again, another guy that I'm a big fan of, but probably not who you'd want to have out here. Their power play is going to have to improve. The goaltending situation is a little shaky, especially with Corpy, which means Elvis would have to step up and play 60-plus games possibly. If Korpisalo is just falling apart, they could go with an AHL guy. But in general, this has got some things where I'm thinking maybe they're in the hunt towards the end of the year, but I'm not sold just yet. Loving this roster, very excited to see what comes in the coming years as prospects arrive. But for now, gotta say I'm shying away from them making the playoffs this season. Should be a lot more fun though. Anyway, let me know your expectations of the Columbus Blue Jackets down below in the comments. Love to hear it. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Everybody, please stay safe, have a great night, and you go hockey, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.